Incredible moment exposed. Single mom's touching question transforms isolated CEO's daughter at a heartfelt community event. Emma stood in the cramped break room, the smell of stale coffee lingering in the air as she rifled through her purse for spare change. With 2 jobs demanding her attention and a 17-year-old daughter to provide for, every dime mattered. She thought of Lily, fragile and anxious, grappling with the idea of her parents' split. "Keep it together," she whispered to herself, expecting another long shift at the diner after this brief respite. Every moment spent away from Lily felt like a betrayal of the bond they shared. In the fluorescent-lit chaos of her mind, Emma grappled with the deep-seated fear of failing her daughter. Was she enough? Was the constant juggling, the long hours, the exhaustion, worth it if all it brought was a smile that never reached Lily's eyes? Lily's forced laughter echoed in her ears, reminding her of the isolating weight of expectations crumbling their fragile world. "I'm doing this for you, Lily," she reassured herself, though the shadow of doubt clawed at her resolve. Over in another part of the city, Sarah paced in the vast, sterile corridor of her family's opulent home, each step taking her further from the vibrant creative spark she longed to embrace. Party invitations littered her pristine desk, and none of them stirred excitement. "Why can't they see me?" she mused, reflecting on the impenetrable walls of her affluent life that left her suffocating beneath the polished surface. Beneath her designer clothes lay a heart heavy with loneliness, a yearning for connection that was silenced by the expectations of her powerful father. That fateful day, fate interwove their paths during a community volunteer opportunity Emma had signed up for, a desperate attempt to show Lily the importance of giving back, perhaps even inspire her. The event felt mundane, yet like 2 parallel lives, their struggles began to converge. Emma spotted Lily's eyes, dull pools of anxiety, mirroring Sarah's own bottled feelings of disconnection. Steeling herself, Emma turned to Sarah, barely more than a stranger, and offered up a question that hovered in the air with weighty significance. "What makes you feel truly seen?" For Sarah, the answer felt elusive. The words spilled out of her mouth without thought, and in that moment, she saw a flicker of understanding in Emma's warm gaze. There was something in that exchange, an acknowledgement that neither girl had ever truly dealt with the depth of their isolation. Emma noted the tension curling in Sarah's posture, a shared battle of fighting against the cold realities surrounding them. A friendship began to stir, but with it came the questions that shadowed their very different lives. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Both girls felt the pressures mounting, swirling around them as whispers of disapproval from Sarah's family reached their ears. Torn between the warmth of newfound friendship and the cold expectations of family loyalty, Sarah found herself drowning in doubt. Could she really choose authenticity over the legacy of privilege? And what would becoming close to someone from a different world mean for Lily, who already feared abandonment and loneliness? Emma sensed the storm brewing in Lily, the familiar tightening in her daughter's chest as she struggled to maintain hope. All Emma wanted was to shield her, to keep her from the pain of losing yet another connection just as it had begun to flourish. But doubt gnawed at her. Was she strong enough to guide Lily through this tempest, or was it only a matter of time before the cracks began to show? As fragile threads of connection sparked between the girls, they stood on the precipice, ready to confront the realities of their choices. Would they dare to step into the unknown together, or would fear tether them back into isolation? The tension remained palpable, echoing in their hearts as the weight of their worlds grew heavier. Emma woke early the next morning, her mind already racing with the thoughts of how to discuss the previous day with Lily. The sun filtered through the window, illuminating the small kitchen where stacks of dishes awaited her attention. She poured herself a strong cup of coffee, hoping the caffeine would sharpen her focus for the day ahead. It was a Saturday, usually a break from her dual jobs. But they both had plans to make sense of the delicate situation unfolding. As she watched the steam rise from her mug, Emma realized how easily the weight of their lives pressed down on them, how isolation could swallow them whole if allowed to fester. Today, she resolved, she would try to unravel this web of fears that kept Lily trapped. Fetching a notepad, she began jotting down some points. How to talk about her own vulnerabilities while inviting Lily to share hers. A delicate balance of openness and guidance. Meanwhile, Sarah lay in her lavish bedroom, a contrast of luxury and emotional barrenness. She picked at the fabric of her designer sheets, contemplating whether she truly had the strength to confront her family about her growing friendship with Lily. Her heart ached for authenticity, yet the looming shadow of her father's expectations hovered heavy and oppressive. What would he think? Would he ever understand? A ping from her phone broke through her thoughts. It was a message from Lily asking if they could meet that afternoon. A surge of excitement rushed through Sarah, mixing with the apprehension clinging tightly to her heart. She quickly typed back a yes, deciding that amidst the mounting pressures, this connection mattered more than their worlds might dictate. Later that day, as she walked through the familiar pathways of their neighborhood, surrounded by manicured lawns and pristine houses, she recalled a moment from yesterday's volunteer work, the laughter, the shared looks of understanding with Emma. There was something so liberating about that fleeting conversation. Perhaps today would carry the same weight. At the local park, Emma arrived early, pacing as she waited for Lily. Each step was filled with a mix of anticipation and anxiety. The vibrant colors of the flowers seemed to mock her insistent worries. Were they truly ready to weather this storm together? When Lily finally arrived, her expression was a mask of both eagerness and wariness. "Hey, Mom," she greeted, her voice tinged with a hint of reluctance. "Hey, sweetheart," Emma replied, trying to read her emotions. "I thought we could just chat for a bit." They settled on a nearby bench. Taking a deep breath, Emma broached the question that had haunted her since their last encounter. "What about Sarah? How do you feel about her?" Lily's brow furrowed as she considered her words. "I don't know. It's like she understands me, but what if it's not okay? What if people find out?" Emma held her daughter's gaze, feeling the need to dig deeper, to encourage vulnerability. "Do you often feel like people don't see the real you?" The ensuing silence stretched out painfully, threatening to unravel the connection they were trying to mend. But within that silence, Emma saw a flicker of something, a potential for openness, for breakthroughs. It was a sliver of hope piercing through the weight of doubt. As Lily finally spoke, her voice quivered. "Sometimes it just feels easier to keep everything inside. What if no one understands?" With each word, it became clearer to Emma that this moment could be transformative, not just for her daughter, but for both of them. It was a chance to foster resilience and authenticity, but it would also demand confrontation, of fears, of societal expectations, and of their very individual identities. In that shared air between them, Emma realized the stakes were higher than ever. What if, instead of trying to fit into others' expectations, we focused on being ourselves? She suggested. Suddenly, a thought struck Emma like lightning, an idea that could change everything for them. What if we invite Sarah here next week? The quiet tremor in the air hinted at the powerful decision before them. Could they truly bridge their worlds, confront their boundaries, and step into the unknown? With the weight of possibility heavy on their minds, they both instinctively knew they stood on a crossroads, a place of growth that could either deepen their connection or tear them further apart. As that tension simmered, a new chapter loomed, one that would demand courage and connection. Would they step forward together into uncharted territory? Emma awoke the following morning with a renewed sense of purpose. The shadows cast by yesterday's conversation continued to linger in her mind, but they no longer felt oppressive. Instead, they ignited a resolve within her. Today would mark the beginning of their collective transformation. She rose from bed, her heart racing with anticipation, and after a quick breakfast, she sat down with her notepad once more, outlining the details of their plan. Talking with Lily had revealed one undeniable truth. They needed to face difficult conversations together if they hoped to break free from the facades that had been wearing them down. The notes branched out into sections of feelings, fears, and dreams, an ambitious map toward authenticity. As Emma revised her approach, she felt an unexpected current of excitement flow through her veins. For the first time in a while, she could see a pathway to growth not only for her daughter but also for herself. Her life had been dominated by survival tactics, living each day knitting together the threads of their chaotic existence. But now there was an opportunity to become proactive, to choose vulnerability over fear. Meanwhile, Sarah was pacing her own bedroom, each step echoing her internal struggle. The luxury surrounding her felt increasingly constricting. She glanced in the mirror, observing a girl caught between two worlds, the polished facade of privilege and the raw, yearning need for connection. With the message from Lily still fresh on her mind, she resolved to step outside the confines of her upbringing. Despite her father's looming expectations, she craved authenticity and acceptance. For too long, compliance had stifled her spirit. Sarah noticed the shadows under her eyes, an unintended reminder of the sleepless nights spent wrestling with societal pressure. If she was going to meet Lily and Emma, she had to shed that weight, even if just for a moment. She picked up her phone and sent a message to Lily, expressing her eagerness to meet. The response came quickly, igniting a wave of warmth and hope. They were moving toward something raw and transformative, and within it lay the potential to challenge their realities. Still, Sarah couldn't shake the nagging doubt whispering that everything would come crashing down if she failed to adhere to her family's expectations. But then she recalled the laughter shared with Lily, the understanding exchanged. That connection, she mused, was worth the risk. When they finally gathered in the park, Emma sensed a charged energy weaving through the air. The flowers that had seemed to mock her the day before now felt like vibrant symbols of growth and potential. She observed Lily and Sarah, two young women grappling with their identities in dissimilar yet related realms. It was clear that they were embarking on their own personal evolutions, caught at a crossroad that could either entwine their lives or create an insurmountable divide. Emma stood up and cleared her throat, attempting to channel her innate hesitance into courage. I know we all have fears, expectations, and doubts, but I believe this conversation can be a bridge, not a barrier. The hesitation hanging in the air was palpable. Lily glanced at Sarah, seeking encouragement, while Sarah offered a tentative smile, an invitation to take the leap. Taking a deep breath, Emma continued, "What if we shared our deepest fears together? If we want to break down these walls, we have to tear away the layers." Sarah's eyes widened, betraying an internal struggle between her fear of judgment and her desire for connection. In that moment, facing both women, Emma felt something shift within her too. Their individual battles with authenticity were laid bare between them, and she became acutely aware of her own vulnerability, how she had often shielded her daughter from harsh realities in an effort to protect her. This was it, a glowing opportunity to dismantle the walls they had painstakingly constructed. The urge to advance into this delicate territory constricted all three of their chests, balancing on the edge of transformation. Emma's heart raced as she felt the gravity of this newfound alliance. With a hopeful gaze, she asked the question that could pivot their conversation forever. What would happen if we each shared a fear we hold about expressing who we really are? The silence stretched out like an elastic band, taut with anticipation. Emma sensed the unspoken pact forming among them, a resolve to step into that uncharted territory together. As they exchanged fraught glances, their reflections in that shared space hinted at personal revelations yet to come. The true challenge was just beginning. With the air thick with possibility, Emma instinctively knew that the next hour could change everything. But would they dare to confront the truth lurking beneath the surface? As Emma waited for someone to break the silence, an image flickered through her mind. Her own struggles, a flash of painful memories, layers of disappointment and unrealized dreams. She held her breath, ready for the subtle shift that might signal the first step toward freedom. Lily broke first, her voice barely above a whisper. "I guess my fear is that it'll never be enough. I try so hard to fit in, to be liked, but sometimes it feels fake. like I'm acting out a role in a play nobody wants to see. The admission hung heavily in the air, resonating with Emma's own feelings of inadequacy. Emma nodded, feeling the weight of the moment. "That's brave, Lily. You're not alone in this." She gestured towards Sarah, who seemed to be wrestling with a storm of thoughts. Seductively swirling tension drew a bead of sweat down Sarah's brow. It was her turn, and for a moment the expectations from her family loomed larger than reality. The pressure bore down, whispering insecurities that stifled her voice. "I fear how much I disappoint my parents. I could create a life I truly want, but what if they see it as rebellion?" Emma felt her heart ache for Sarah. The battle she was waging was all too familiar, deciding whether to pursue her own happiness or to remain loyal to another's dreams. Sometimes what feels like rebellion is really just the first step toward claiming your own path. The young women met Emma's gaze, each navigating their own journeys while skirting the edges of vulnerability. There was a familial bond forming, one that excluded the judgmental eyes of society. What blossomed here was slow and tentative, like a seed pushing through tightly packed earth. As silence fell once more, Emma pressed deeper. What if the fears we hold, what if they are just stories we've woven over time? What would happen if we reframed them to empower rather than imprison us? That question acted like a gentle nudge, prompting them to reassess their narratives. Sarah's eyes lit with thought. Maybe my fear of disappointment is really just my fear of being misunderstood. Each word built a bridge across the chasm of their experiences. Emma felt the magic of clarity beginning to unfurl. "And mine is the fear of no longer being needed," she confessed, glancing at Lily. "It terrifies me that if I let go, it will mean losing something I've held dear for so long." The three exchanged glances, understanding without the need for further words. It was as if the act of sharing their fears had stripped them of the weight they had carried, if only a little. Each revelation shone a light into dark corners of their lives, illuminating paths previously unseen. For the first time they ventured into the territory of acceptance, a space that welcomed their imperfections instead of condemning them. But as they settled into this newfound comfort, doubt crept in again. The stakes felt higher, and Emma could sense the urge to retract the warmth they had just shared. It reminded her of the pretense they had lived behind, always smiling, always proving their worth, until it became constricting. "Can we really carry this forward?" Emma voiced her uncertainty. "What if we slip back into those old patterns? How do we make this last?" The question hung, each woman acutely aware of the fragility of what they had built. This was not merely a chat. This was grounding in self, a step toward authenticity, yet it begged for continuity, for the next evolution. Sarah spoke up, resolve rising in her tone. "We have to commit to hold one another accountable. If we want to grow, we must nourish this connection, be real, and speak up when we're slipping." Lily nodded, her determination echoing Sarah's words. "We become better when we lean into the discomfort together. I think we can figure this out." Emma felt the surge of emotions push against her, a swelling tide of hope. The shadows still lurked, but they were now embers, glowing with potential for change rather than suffocating her spirit. Huddled there in the park, they were no longer just individuals untethered by their vulnerabilities. They were allies on a quest to forge authentic lives. Yet as they locked eyes with an unspoken agreement to support one another, a sudden realization struck Emma. The conversation they had started today would not end neatly. The journey of unlayering their identities required courage, consistency, and time. What if tomorrow brought even deeper fears to face? Emma's heart raced at the thought, mingling excitement with trepidation. Now more than ever she understood that the real challenge lay ahead. The process of change was just beginning, and they were on the precipice of a reality that could either ignite further connections or expose old wounds. As she inhaled deeply, Emma's thoughts swirled with an uncertain future, but a sense of purpose anchored her. What would be the next truthful revelation they would face as they ventured together down this imperfect path? The following morning, Emma awoke with a knot tightening in her chest. It felt as if the bravery displayed in the park had been a mirage, beautiful yet fleeting. She replayed each word exchanged, wishing she could solidify the moment, trap it in time. But reality seeped in, reminding her that such transient encounters often slipped away, leaving behind the ghosts of doubt. After a quick breakfast, Emma sat at her kitchen table, fingers poised over her laptop. But instead of productive thoughts, her mind filled with swirling fears. What if today was a setback? She couldn't afford to fumble. Not now, not after opening up to Sarah and Lily. She needed to harness the energy of their connection, transforming it into action. With a deep breath, she finally pressed the keys, focusing on her work. Contract negotiations for her small coaching business. The stakes were high. A prestigious client could elevate her career, yet the pressure nearly stifled her. Maybe if she challenged herself to apply the newfound clarity she had gained, she could shape this day. Instead of succumbing to her insecurities, she would lead with her truth. As the day unfolded, Emma found herself in a series of calls that began to feel daunting. Each client carried expectations she was determined to meet, yet the satisfaction always felt out of reach. Her inner critic reared its head. What if they didn't see the value she provided? What if her doubt outweighed her capabilities? In the midst of a negotiation, she found herself on the brink of retreating into familiar patterns, delaying her responses, softening her stance in hopes of approval. But then she heard Sarah's voice in her mind, confident and resolute. We have to nourish this connection. It struck her. Nourishment didn't just imply support from others, but also nurturing her own ambitions and speaking truthfully about her expertise. Let's make adjustments to this proposal, Emma asserted during a call, her tone steady. Here are the expectations I believe should be outlined clearly. It was in that single instance, asserting her perspective, that she realized how liberating it felt to express her knowledge openly. The conversation shifted, her clients responding with thoughtful engagement, something she hadn't anticipated. As she hung up the phone, her pulse raced with adrenaline. Emma allowed herself a moment of triumph. She had transformed fear into clarity. In that flash of empowerment, a lighter weight settled on her shoulders. However, beneath that exhilaration was a creeping thread of anxiety, the realization that maintaining this new level of honesty would require continuous effort. Feeling slightly dazed, she considered reaching out to Sarah and Lily. Maybe they could share their individual victories and challenges as they navigated this day. Emma's fingers hovered over her phone, contemplating whether to confess her triumphs or her lingering uncertainties. In that moment, conflicted emotions simmered beneath her calm exterior. What if they couldn't match her newfound courage? What if sharing her triumph only served to highlight their struggles? Yet, as Emma faced herself in the reflection of her screen, she understood that honesty was a two-way street. They needed each other's support to carve a path through their fears. Without overthinking, she finally decided to send a message. Hey, just had a breakthrough during a client call. I spoke my truth and it felt amazing. Anyone else having a victorious day? Hammering the send button felt like striking a match to kindle the fire they had ignited just a day prior. As she leaned back in her chair, Emma's anticipation grew. What if this simple outreach could spark a wave of change among them? They could share more than just fears. They could turn victories into building blocks for their growth. Just when she allowed herself to feel a flicker of excitement, a notification pinged on her phone. It was Sarah, her response swift and eager. I can't wait to share. Let's meet up later. The implications of that message excited Emma, but also sent an apprehensive shiver down her spine. What would they unearth this time? The dinner table is typically an informal stage for laughter and banter, but now it was a space for deeper revelations. Packed with anticipation, she noted the invisible threshold they were on the verge of crossing, the possibility that today's discussions could lead to a new standard of honesty, friendships cemented through shared vulnerability, and unearthing disguises they had long relied upon.
Emma paused, a heavy silence settling in as she pondered what awaited. Could her next step truly redefine who they were collectively and individually? She could almost feel the sharp edge of unexamined truths brimming just beneath the surface, ready to reveal themselves. With her heart racing, Emma realized the moment was drawing near, a time to confront the complexities they'd yet to address. Could this exploration strengthen their bonds or unravel unseen fears? As doubt wove through her excitement, she was left on the edge, ready to face what lay ahead. The aroma of sautéed vegetables wafted through Emma's kitchen, mingling with the distant sounds of the city. She stirred the pan absent-mindedly, her thoughts lost in anticipation for later. It was surreal how a single text could shift her day from ordinary to electric. Yet as the clock ticked closer to their meeting, the excitement she initially felt morphed into an almost palpable anxiety. What truths might emerge tonight? The table was set with care, reflecting her desire for warmth and openness, a stark contrast to her unsettled insides. The familiar clink of forks against plates filled her ears as thoughts raced through her mind. Would they still find her brave? What if she faltered and they didn't reciprocate her newfound candor? With the doorbell's chime cutting into her spiral of doubts, Emma quickly wiped her hands on a kitchen towel, putting her emotions aside. When she opened the door, Sarah and Lily's faces were lit with eager smiles that momentarily grounded her. "Smells amazing in here," Sarah exclaimed, stepping inside and hugging Emma quickly. Lily followed, her laughter as infectious as always. "Too amazing for something as serious as what we're about to discuss," Lily quipped, her playful demeanor attempting to diffuse the thick tension in the air. As they settled around the table, the initial chatter about light-hearted topics breathed life into the space. Emma chuckled at a shared memory from their college days, longing for that simpler comfort. But as the laughter faded and glasses of wine were poured, the undercurrent of expectation settled firmly among them. The atmosphere shifted as Emma cleared her throat, her heart pounding. "So I basically had this epiphany during a call today," she began, testing the waters. Their eyes remained focused on her, encouraging yet entwined with their own anticipation. "I was so nervous about what my clients would think, and then I spoke my truth, and it felt powerful." The weight of her admission lingered in the air. "That's huge, Emma," Sarah affirmed, leaning forward. "What did it feel like?" "Liberating," Emma replied, her voice steadier than she felt. "But it also scares me that keeping this up will be just as daunting as it was before." Unraveling her uncertainties seemed to ignite a spark in Sarah. "Then let's commit to checking in with one another. We can grow from this together, hold each other accountable," Lily chimed in. "Yes, we need to celebrate the changes too. It's not just about facing fears. It's about acknowledging our victories." A warmth enveloped Emma, emboldening her to embrace the blossoming connection they were forging. Yet beneath that comfort, a small nagging doubt whispered, could they withstand the rawness they were inviting into their friendship? "What if we're not ready for the implications of this honesty?" Emma ventured, her voice lowering slightly, creating space for deeper reflection without retreating. "I mean, what if we reveal things that change everything between us?" They paused. The silence felt like a collective breath, pregnant with possibility. Emma could see flickers of uncertainty in their eyes, but they also felt something else, a binding desire to risk it all for a chance to unravel their stories. "I think it's time we address some of the masks we wear," Sarah finally spoke, her voice reminiscent of resolve. "Agreed," Lily added, nodding. "We can't pretend everything is fine anymore. But honestly, isn't that what we've always needed?" Emma's heart raced with an adrenaline rush of anticipation mixed with fear. There was a level of vulnerability on the horizon that was both exhilarating and petrifying. Would they emerge as stronger allies or crumble beneath the weight of their fears? As their gazes locked, Emma recognized that the strength of their bond hinged not just on shared triumphs, but also on how they navigated discomfort together. A realization washed over her. This was not merely about revealing insecurities, it was about reclaiming their individual narratives. "What about childhood fears?" she encouraged, sensing the shift. "What have we buried that still impacts us today?" Uncertainty hung in the air as they pondered that haunting question. It was as if the door had opened to a realm unscripted, waiting for them to step in. Emma's mind was awash with memories, loss, and confessions waiting to be touched upon. She could feel the moment gravitating toward pivoting truths. Before they could respond, time seemed suspended. Emma knew that the exploration ahead could either serve as a healing catalyst for them all or rupture the very fabric of their friendship. Emma took a deep breath, feeling the charged air. She was ready to breach those hidden territories. One single moment could forever change the landscape of their connections. But would it fortify them or unravel them? As the shadows began to dance with the flickering candlelight, they sat on the brink of something uncharted, hearts laid bare for the world to witness. This was their chance, and as Emma held that knowledge within her grasp, she steeled herself for whatever lay on the other side. Little did she know, this was merely the beginning of a journey that would test the very core of who they were. What buried truths might emerge, and how would they reshape not only their friendships but also the essence of their individual identities? The air hung heavy with anticipation, mirroring the weight of unspoken fears that lingered just beneath the surface. As Emma sat in the cocoon of candlelit warmth, her heart thudded with both trepidation and exhilaration. She exchanged glances with Sarah and Lily, each of them wrestling silently with their own choices. The air was saturated with unspoken confessions, and Emma felt a swell of responsibility to lead the charge. Her own voice echoed in her mind. Could she summon the courage to dive deeper? "Let's start with something small," Emma suggested cautiously, her fingers tracing the rim of her wine glass. "What's one fear we can share that's not too heavy?" She hoped to crack the facade of their conventional conversations, but even as she spoke, her own heart fluttered with the weight of potential vulnerability. "That sounds reasonable," Sarah replied, her brow furrowing slightly. "But what if it becomes heavier than we expect?" Emma inhaled sharply at that. Could their approach to a lighter topic spiral into intense revelations? In that moment, she found it almost impossible to predict how the evening would unfold. Still, she pressed forward. "I guess that's part of the risk, right? We can only control how we react." Lily leaned back in her chair, her expression shifting. "Fine, I'll go first then." She took a deep breath, clearly contemplating her words. "I fear that I'm not living up to my own potential. I often feel like I'm treading water in my life, not really moving forward." The revelation left a ripple effect around the table, as Emma and Sarah shared knowing looks. The inadequacy of progress resonated in their own journeys, igniting a spark. "What does that stem from?" Emma gently prodded, wanting to dig deeper but remaining mindful of each woman's comfort. "Was there a moment when you realized that specifically, or is it more of a lingering sensation?" "It's accumulated," Lily replied, her voice softening. "But let's just say that being stuck in a job that doesn't fulfill me isn't helping." Emma nodded, feeling a kinship with Lily's admission. Wasn't this what she too had wrestled with? The tension quietly melded their insecurities into a shared reality, a confirmation that they weren't alone in their struggles. It lit an ember in Emma, urging her to be bolder. "All right, I guess it's my turn. I fear—" Emma hesitated, the words tumbling like stones. "I fear that I'll never be enough, not for my clients, my family, or even for myself. I've always felt this gnawing pressure." She paused, searching for empathy in their eyes, which only urged her to continue. "What if I never break out of this cycle of second-guessing myself?" A tense silence enveloped them. The vulnerability in the room was palpable, like a coiled spring ready to burst. Sarah glanced at Emma, sensing the openness, and leaned forward. "I think we all struggle with feelings of inadequacy. It's almost natural, isn't it?" Her tone was bittersweet, resonating with shared struggles. Encouraged by their receptivity, Emma pressed further into this territory. "But what if we took steps to redefine what enough looks like? I mean, can we start to acknowledge our unique achievements along the way, like tonight?" A shift seemed to occur in the trio's dynamic. It was a tentative but broadening recognition that perhaps their dreams were not so far-fetched, nor their fears insurmountable. Emma envisioned a roadmap, a way to continually elevate their individual narratives. They needed to grow, but together.
Let's commit to this, she urged, her voice steadying, fueled by newfound resolve. Let's not just share fears, but also tackle how to dismantle them. What could that transformation look like? Sarah and Lily exchanged looks of agreement, their faces illuminating as the concept resonated within them. They were no longer merely classmates enjoying shared meals. They were individual women ready to uplift one another. As the evening progressed, they contributed varying strategies, some practical, others abstract, but all centered around authenticity and support. Together, they began to weave intricate threads of personal exploration, each contribution adding depth to their growing connection. Yet even as they built layers of trust, shadows of unexamined fears lingered like ghosts in the corners of the room. Emma couldn't shake the sensation that there was still something waiting to surface. One question danced on the tip of her tongue, a question that could potentially echo destructively through their newfound alliance. Can we also manage to confront the secrets that sever our self-worth? Emma finally said, her pulse quickening as the imperative question landed. What if there are parts of us we've simply buried? In that moment, time seemed to pause once more. Instinctively, Emma realized that this inquiry could redefine not just their nights together, but their very perceptions of themselves. Each face in that dimly lit room conveyed the gravity of what was being proposed. The unsaid haunted the air, a specter of potential unraveling that loomed ominously over their connection. As the candlelight flickered, Emma felt a determination swell within her. They were not just embarking on an exploration of fears, but a confrontation with the very essence of who they were. Layers to peel, masks to shed. Yet as clarity emerged, so did uncertainty. Was this route towards authenticity worth the risk of unearthing the very things they'd sought to conceal? The weight of their next steps bore down upon them, thickening the air as they prepared to accept the challenge. How would they claim power over their narratives while dealing with the shadows that haunted their pasts? The conversation turned, like a pendulum, swinging into unknown territories, ready to reveal the truths they had yet to face. The room held its breath, and Emma felt the electric tension pulling at her heart. The air thickened as thoughts lingered, ripe with possibility and fear alike. She glanced at Sarah and Lily, sensing their collective apprehension, a blend of resolve and dread, like dancers poised on the edge of the stage. The flickering candles cast shadows that seemed to mimic the doubts they grappled with. "Okay," Emma finally said, her voice low but firm, gathering the fragments of her courage. "Let's address the buried parts. What if we figured out what those secrets were for each of us?" It was impulsive, even reckless, but she recognized that vulnerability was a doorway to understanding. "I don't know." Sarah's brow furrowed, a visible shiver running through her body. "Some things feel too deep, too messy." Emma felt a surge of empathy. They were all standing at the brink of something monumental, yet extricating the truths they locked away might redefine their bond in ways they couldn't yet understand. "We can at least try. This isn't a therapy session, it's just us, a safe space to explore." "Safe space. That's a nice thought," Lily murmured. But even as she spoke, her eyes sparkled with the thrill of challenge. "But what if the things we confess create divisions instead of connections?" The dissonance between fear and excitement ignited something within Emma. She leaned forward, her heart racing. Why not take that risk? What we share might be painful, but it could also be empowering. Isn't that what reclaiming our narratives is about? Facing what we've masked for too long? Silence cascaded around them, thick as the flickering shadows. Slowly, Lily nodded. "I suppose we'll never know unless we dig deep." Sarah sighed, her shoulders sagging slightly, and yet there was a glimmer of intent in her eyes. "Okay, let's try it. But if anyone feels uncomfortable, we stop." The agreement felt monumental, each word imbued with the weight of their uncharted territory. It didn't mean they were ready, but it meant they were willing to embark on a collective search for truth. Emma opened the floor, her voice steadier now. "I can start. My buried secret has always been unresolved guilt about prioritizing my career over my family. It feeds into everything else. The nagging feeling I'm not enough, that I'm somehow failing.
Her confession hung heavy in the air, a weight that felt transformed through articulation. Lily breathed deeply. I feel trapped in my own life. I've been so consumed by expectations, others' expectations, that I don't even remember what I wanted. There's a part of me that believes if I tried to follow my own ambitions, I'd disappoint everyone. As Lily spoke, Emma felt a comforting unity stitch itself into the conversation, a recognition that none of them were alone in their fears. It was raw but invigorating, an authentic excavation of what they had kept hidden. Each confession peeled back another layer, revealing desires and longings suffocated by external pressures and self-doubt. Sarah sat back, her fingers lightly grasping her glass, the anxiety gradually dissipating from her posture. I felt complete loss after my last relationship ended. I thought I had my future planned out. Marriage, kids, a house. And then it all shattered, leaving me feeling aimless and disconnected. Tension and warmth intermingled as they shared their vulnerabilities. It was both illuminating and terrifying. Emma's heart raced not only from the raw honesty radiating in the room, but also from the faint glimmer of clarity that hovered overhead. They were becoming stronger, adaptable allies in a shared struggle. Yet as the evening progressed, Emma's thoughts drifted to the shadows still lurking in the corners of their confessions. Each woman had revealed parts of her heart, but beneath that revelation lay deeper issues, still unvoiced, that threatened to fracture their newfound connection. Emma couldn't shake the feeling that they were skimming the surface of much more profound truths yet to unearth. How far would they venture into the murky depths of their identities? Could they truly confront all that had kept them captive, or would they falter as they approached the heart of the matter? The possibility of discovery sparkled tantalizingly, yet a wave of doubt washed over her. The very secrets they lifted could just as easily shatter the newfound alliance. Were they ready for whatever lay at the bottom of those depths? Emma felt the air shift once more, the silence pregnant with unmanipulated potential. She hesitated, contemplating whether to break the moment with another question. Her instincts reverberated with caution. Are we truly prepared for the full weight of whatever we might on this journey? She finally asked, heart pounding with the anticipation of their response. The answer could change everything between them. With that question hanging in the air like an unresolved chord, the path ahead suddenly felt both terrifying and exhilarating. What awaited them in this journey was the essence of their identities, the stark truths they had long hidden, echoing even now, waiting to be faced. The heaviness in the air cocooned them, a palpable sensation that left each woman momentarily tethered to her own thoughts. Emma's heart raced, the conversation hanging in the delicate balance of bravery and fear. Instinctively, she knew this was the moment they could either seize or squander, and she felt the weight of her own courage pressing on her. Sarah broke the silence, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. What if we've been living a lie? A facade we've created to protect ourselves from disappointment? The rawness of her words sliced through the tension, echoing in Emma's mind as she contemplated the truth of it all. What if this vulnerability opens wounds instead of healing them? Lily asked, the skepticism coloring her tone. Emma sensed a familiar anxiety rising as they probed deeper, yet she also recognized it as an opportunity, an urge to dig through the discomfort, digging for what lay beneath. We all have something to share, something that simmers just below the surface, Emma said, her voice firm with newfound resolve. Let's take turns. No one gets left behind. We're all in this together, and it's time we face our shadows. Eyes met, and the layers of hesitation began to peel away, each woman processing the invitation to reveal what lay deeper than their initial confessions. Emma braced herself for what could come next, believing in the transformative power of this exchange, even amid her own uncertainty. I've always felt I had an image to uphold, Lily said, her words spilling out in a quiet rush. As a successful professional, I'm supposed to have everything figured out. Everyone looks to me for guidance. But inside, I'm just this girl who can't find her way. I want to break free from all these expectations, but I'm terrified of who I'll become without them. Intrigued by Lily's revelation,
Emma realized that there were cracks beneath the polished exterior they each wore, the unyielding shells hiding their innermost fears. Then it was Sarah's turn. I haven't just lost my sense of direction after my breakup. What I really lost was my sense of self, she admitted, her voice quaking. I used to think I was strong enough to be independent. Now I wonder if I was ever truly capable of standing alone. Emma absorbed Sarah's fearful words, echoing the self-doubt she often harbored. Perhaps, beneath the layers of societal expectations and individual aspirations, an authentic emotional landscape pulsed vibrant and raw. With each admission, they were no longer just acquaintances sitting in a candlelit room, but a triad of women on a pilgrimage through the landscape of their souls. As they unearthed their fears, a transformation was taking place, an awakening to both shared struggle and individual strength. A moment of clarity washed over Emma. They were not merely unearthing secrets, they were reframing their identities. Each revelation acted as a beacon, illuminating the areas where they sought growth. With every confession, strength flowed through her veins, and excitement surged. Let's reclaim our stories, redefine who we are, Emma urged, her voice steadier with each syllable. This is our chance to be more than what we've been defined by. We can discover hidden competencies we never acknowledged, use our pain as a springboard for growth. Together, we can confront what lies beyond these confessions. But even as she spoke those empowering words, hints of doubt flickered like shadows within her. Were they prepared for what acknowledging and shedding these burdens might require? As the night deepened, a new tension coiled tightly within Emma. Transformation demanded courage, but what consequences lay at the end of this path? Was the potential for healing strong enough to withstand the trepidation that accompanied it? Emma locked eyes with both women, sensing that the gravity of the turning point hung over them like an impending storm. So, what do we do next? Are we prepared to confront the past, our insecurities, and ourselves head-on? There was silence again, but this time it was pregnant with possibility, an electric quietude charged with questions. Deepa's breaths quickened, and Emma felt any shield she had carefully constructed begin to tremble. The next step in this journey could cement their bond, or fracture it irrevocably. Emma's stomach twisted in intrigue, pushing her to wonder, could they survive the storm of revelations ahead, emerging on the other side with a richer understanding of self and one another? Emma had never expected this moment to emerge from the depths of her uncertainties, yet here they sat, on the precipice of transformation. The soft glow of candlelight illuminated their faces, revealing the intricate tapestry of emotions woven from fear, sorrow, and hope. Each breath expanded the space between them, charged with potential, and it was the weight of their collective vulnerability that began to forge an unbreakable bond. Here's the thing, Emma said, the urgency in her voice compelling them to listen closely. We need to set intentions for this journey we're embarking on together. A roadmap of sorts, so we don't stray from our commitment to uncovering our truths. As her words resonated, she could almost visualize the blueprint of their aspirations taking shape. They weren't merely three women sharing a meal anymore. They were explorers, navigating the uncharted territory of their lives, ready to lay foundations for a profound change. Lily nodded, her expression solemn yet determined. I want to let go of the guilt I've carried for putting expectations on myself. I've thought it was the only way to succeed, but now I see it's just chains holding me back. I want to reclaim my identity outside of my parents' expectations, Sarah chimed in, her voice gaining strength. I refuse to hide any longer behind the life they've crafted for me. It's time to build my own dream, independently. As Emma listened to her friends articulate their intentions, a swell of pride built within her. They were acknowledging and confronting their struggles. It felt like witnessing the first stirrings of spring after a long winter, hopeful and intensely alive. To suppress the desire to shield them from their vulnerabilities would no longer serve. Instead, they needed to embrace and nurture their authentic selves in tandem. Feeling the fervor, Emma took a deep breath before laying her commitment bare. I'm ready to cultivate self-compassion. I need to accept that I am more than my successes. My worth doesn't hinge on being what others expect me to be. I'll own my mistakes, and that's okay." In that moment, the room vibrated with a charge of shared resolve. The foundations for their transformation were set as they exchanged glances of understanding. They were forging a pact, a commitment to uplift one another's journeys as they boldly faced the shadows they had kept at bay for too long. But even as they surged forward, Emma felt the remnants of doubt creep back in. She knew this path would demand more from them than superficial changes. The reality of their individual battles was larger than any single moment gathered in light. It would take diligence and effort to hold one another accountable amidst inevitable setbacks. "Can we check in with each other regularly?" Lily asked, excitement bubbling in her voice. "I think having someone rooting for us could make all the difference." "A weekly meeting?" Sarah suggested, her anxious smile brightening the conversation. "It would be a time to celebrate our wins and grow from our setbacks together. We'd hold each other accountable." Stirred by their newfound vision, Emma's heart swelled as she nodded fervently. "Absolutely. A space dedicated not only to vulnerability, but to growth," she affirmed. "We'll declare progress, tackle fears, and confront whatever lies ahead." Thus, they began to sketch the framework for their alliance, beginning with a schedule dotted with reaffirmations of strength and commitments to growth. Emma gazed at her friends, feeling a weight lift from her shoulders. Here was a sisterhood forged through honesty, a bond resilient enough to withstand the storms threatening to tear them apart. The sense of empowerment enveloped them, driving them to share visions of their futures. As the conversations flowed, burrowing deeper into the essence of themselves, Emma couldn't shake the feeling that they had ignited something monumental. Yet they stood at a critical juncture. The weight of this commitment would require not just courage but vulnerability, chaos, and above all, clarity. Weeks unfolded with eager anticipation as they strove to uphold their promises to each other. The meetings transformed into a sanctuary where failures met triumphs, fears connected with newfound strengths. Emma showcased her contracts with increased confidence, strengthening her reputation each time she spoke her truth. With every success, her self-doubt began to dissolve. Lily blazed new trails too, rediscovering her passions, breaking free from the clutches of others' expectations. The clarity of her desires illuminated her path, making her realize the beauty in allowing herself to be vulnerable. Sarah thrived as well. She began rebuilding her identity from the ashes of her past, gradually expressing her authenticity and embracing a life she had long suppressed. As the tentative moments transformed into consistent growth, something extraordinary began to blossom in their lives, a sense of collective empowerment that spurred each of them onto paths better suited to who they were meant to be. Not long afterward, they got together one sunny afternoon in the park, enveloped by the vibrant hues of spring. No longer just a collection of insecurities and fears, they were now a triad of fearless women, each reveling in their personal evolution. "Look at us, we did this together," Lily remarked, pride sparkling in her eyes. "Yep, we ripped off the Band-Aid and faced the pain," Sarah confirmed, relishing the warmth of their friendship. Emma grinned widely, knowing they had created something lasting. She had achieved more than mere self-acceptance. She had fostered a vibrant friendship where fear thrived in honesty and connections unraveled the constraints of isolation. With hearts racing and spirits flourishing, they gathered the radiance pooling between them. In that moment, they comprehended that they had not only conquered their fears, they had transcended them, paving the way for a bright future intertwined with fortitude. It was then, emboldened by their resilience, Emma stood taller than ever before, feeling recognized and capable. She had forged a new path defined by authenticity, accomplishment, and self-love, transforming not only her own life, but also the lives of those she held dear. No longer isolated shadows of their former selves, they had emerged as powerful allies, committed to the continuous journey of growth, cherishing each moment as they stepped into the light of their own choosing. In this world of newfound openness, one undeniable truth gleamed brightly. They were stronger together, and they were ready to meet whatever life had in store for them head-on. You need to subscribe now to ensure you don't miss the next chapter of incredible emotional journeys. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and support these powerful stories. Comment below with your thoughts on their transformation and what it means to you. Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to witness these inspiring conclusions. This is the moment to show your support. Don't wait even one more second to make a difference.